if women are only looking at the top 8, 9, 10 of men,
yeah.
if guys like you just started shaming women, do they? You know who's paying for OnlyFans, right? It's lower quality guys.
Yeah.
I can't possibly have babies because of climate change. You know?
Right, which is nonsense.
No, of course.
But I do think it's crazy that I'm about to be 34 and I have no family. Because my dad had 2 kids by the time he was 27.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, you know what the problem is, though? It's definitely not me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's everybody else.
Hello everyone, once again from the Tory capitalist dystopia of the United Kingdom. And today I wanted to talk about something we've kind of been covering over the last couple months, and that is conservative men, mainly American conservative men in this context. And it's basically American conservative men are just not okay. And it's not surprising I can make a video like a couple weeks ago that even right-wing women are completely sick of how they treat them, because these guys are just like total misogynists. And I guess I just want to go through a lot of the discourse around what a lot of these people have been saying about high-value women and about the role of women in marriages, because it is all very like conservative, but also in many ways very religious as well. And honestly, it's just not surprising dating apps like The Right Stuff just never took off, because conservative men almost by default are going to treat female partners like absolute trash. Like, sure, maybe there are a couple conservative dudes who do treat women all right and are just, you know, misguided or ignorant or whatever, right? But at the same time, a fundamental part of their ideology is women are lesser than men, patriarchy is good and should be maintained, and also for a lot of them too, they firmly just see women as a wife and a mother like it's the 1950s and 60s. So I just want to talk about all of this today. Might be a shorter video, I say that, but then it will probably just be 30 minutes long. I'm trying to keep this one a bit shorter because I'm editing like this massive long one on conservatives and like all red meat diets, which should be up already by the time you're watching this. So go check that out, and also go check out my Jordan Peterson video from earlier this week too. And before we go any further, please like the video, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Also follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter, on Instagram, on Threads, on Blue Sky. Also consider becoming a patron. I'm trying to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible. Benefits include access to the private patrons Discord server, and give me a DM and I'll send you your own code, and also access to my Switch friend code and old exclusive content on the Patreon itself. And also check out my second channel and check out my subreddit, all of that stuff in the description. So what inspired this video was, of course, like a lot of things we've been speaking about recently with like Steven Crowder, or like I said, right-wing women being sick of right-wing men. But there's 2 tweets that were going like viral from Tim Pool and Matt Walsh that I wanted to talk about. The Tim Pool one went crazy viral, just him having Fresh and Fit on his podcast. And I think we should watch the clip first, respond to it, and then just get into his responses and some of the stuff that people are saying.
That's never.
No, but hold on.
Yeah,
Like,
go ahead.
I agree a lot with what he's saying. Imagine if women are only looking at the top 8, 9, 10 of men.
Yeah.
If guys like you just started shaming women, do they? You know who's paying for OnlyFans, right? It's lower quality guys.
Yeah. 100%.
So if high quality dudes who got really nice watches and pull up in a Bugatti, and this woman's like, yeah, I want to come hang with you, and he goes, so yeah, what's your body count? And he goes, how dare you ask me that? I don't want to know my car. And he takes off.
Yeah.
Now she's embarrassed. She got shut down, and more women are going to say, if I want a high value man, because only the guys are going to come after me are going to be high value.
So maybe
let's
flip
be real here, though.
Maybe are we going to turn this into the Dreamcast?
Yeah.
So before we just talk about that, Tim Pool reacting, because it went viral. Apparently they are mad at me for saying high-value men should be shaming women for being promiscuous, let's say. Why would I care what these people think? The rarest of rare blue checkmark W's, there isn't a single high-quality dude in this podcast. Someone else saying, I'm right there with you, to Tim. But I think we should be shaming the sex culture in general. This thing where everyone, men and women, think they should sleep with as many people as possible is a problem. High-value men should stop taking any women that would come to them, and women should stop opening their legs to every man they see as high value. Make each other earn your respect and create values in morality, not objectivity. So a guy who's Married for 16 years, is a podcaster with 2 kids. Post this meme: men, conservative women, woke feminists. Is this true? And the poll says yes, mostly. So of course this went viral for good reason. And I think just even this short little clip just says so much about like these right-wing manosphere grifters and how they view everything. It's all like transactional. It's all about like monetary worth in some ways. Like a high-value man has a nice watch and a Bugatti. It's not someone who treats women well. It's not someone who respects women. It's someone who's made it in the neoliberal capitalist world and prioritizes flexing their wealth above everything, right? So that's a good role model for a man. And even like one of those comments was kind of saying to Tim in response, they don't hold the same standards for men, because where are they talking about men keeping themselves like pure for the one or high quality women? Why aren't they even saying, well, we don't agree with women doing this, but men don't do it either? Like, save yourself for like a real relationship. Although I don't agree with that, I could understand the logic a bit more of like, oh my God, like sex is meaningful and beautiful and should always be about like loving another person. So therefore you should both like save yourself for only people you have a deep connection with. But no, it's not like that, is it? It's like, nah, men aspire to have a Bugatti and a Rolex, and also make sure as part of your personality, you start shaming women for sleeping with other dudes as well. Because those are the characteristics of a high quality man right there, yeah? Someone who runs around in a Bugatti asking women, how many people have you slept with? That's too much for me. You're actually a hoe and a bad person, so leave me alone. Why I get frustrated, and I made a whole video about this back in January, I think, about like, what is the left's answer to manosphere grifters, Andrew Tate, Fresh and Fit? And it's like, there isn't a leftist answer to this. They're literally telling you to be a misogynist piece of crap to pick up women, right? And it's just not going to work. 99% of the time, that is not going to work. Maybe there is some ecosystem of wealth that I'm unaware of, where you can just get away with stuff like this. You can get away with treating women like crap in a certain environment as long as you're rich enough, flex, and pay for their stuff. Maybe that exists for people who are millionaire grifters like Fresh and Fit and Tim Pool. But for literally everyone else, for dudes, if you treat women like this, you're not going to have much success. And listening to these types of people is even going to make you fail even more in trying to find just partners or having like healthy relationships with women in general, if you view everything as transactional and you can quantify someone's worth based on how many people they've slept with and your own monetary flexing, I guess. So yeah, please don't listen to people like this. And if you know anyone who is into this stuff, please just tell them it's not going to work. Because even just from like the goal of a lot of these people who listen to these pickup artists, they want to like attract women, right? And this ain't working. Like, this is not going to work for you. And although it might make you feel better, like it's all the women's fault, you should shame them for their body counts to make yourself feel better or something, it's just not going to work nearly all the time. So please don't listen to these people. So that's like the manosphere side. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, Matt Walsh tweeted something that went viral. And it was a TikTok of a woman who filmed herself basically like what she does in the morning looking after her kids while her husband does nothing but go on his phone. So I just want to play you that clip and we'll just see a bit of the reaction as well. So Matt Walsh writes, this kind of martyr complex is absolutely deadly to a marriage. Imagine thinking you're some kind of persecuted supermom when all you did was make a stack of pancakes for dinner. So we're going to get back to the Daily Wire boys and how they actually view their own relationships with their wives who seem to do everything for them. And I feel like he feels personally called out because this is him. This is his own life. This is his wife who takes care of their 4 children. Why he films like a garbage 1-hour podcast every couple days or whatever, while non-stop tweeting like the guy in that video. Now, I will say, of course, I don't like the like TikTok-ification of life. Like, if this isn't staged and this is 100% real, that is just not a healthy way to deal with a relationship. Now, I'm trying to be sympathetic. And I'm trying to think, like, this woman is probably feeling quite desperate, being overrun with the responsibilities. We don't know anything about their life, by the way, either, because it says this is between 5 and 6 p.m. They're both home. They could both work. But posting this on social media for everyone to see, I don't think it's very healthy, because the husband sees that, and then what? You wanted him to see it? Why not just say it to him? I don't like this, and I think it's like a older millennial thing, really. Like, they just post everything on social media. Like, I really do not understand the lack of privacy having all of this out for the world to see. You want to show this to your friends and family? So yeah, not good. At the same time, I feel like in this discussion, it's irrelevant, because we're not talking about like these two people really. We're talking about the message of the video. Like I said, it could even be fake. And the message of the video is this woman is very unhappy because she feels like all the responsibility for looking after children falls on her. And I actually have been browsing a subreddit recently called Regretful Parents. And it feels very similar to stuff in this. And often what it is people don't hate their children. People don't hate necessarily being a parent. They hate being a co-parent in a bad relationship, which makes them really resent their children for ruining their life because they're getting no support from their partner. And more often than not, because of patriarchy and traditional values in society, it does fall on the woman to look after the kid. So they really resent their husbands. And yeah, if this is the real dynamic, then he's being a bad father. And like I said, we don't know anything about these people's lives apart from the video. But in the context of the video and what she's saying, everyone can totally understand that in the context of just the video, the man is clearly not like pulling his weight in this relationship. But if there is context, like, you know, he works all day, like he just got back from work, she's a stay-at-home mom and that's part of her responsibilities. Again, he could still help even if he's had a hard day from work. You got to share the load of having kids, because being a stay-at-home mum is still a full-time job on top of doing some stuff for your kids that you should both be doing. So yeah, the message of this is you need to have a healthy like co-parenting relationship with your partner to make it easier for both of you, because if you don't, one is probably going to have very bad mental health problems. And like I said, if you go on the subreddit Regretful Parents, you're going to see a lot of stories just like that with people who have it like way worse and just really hate being parents. And I really sympathize, and a lot of reading this stuff has made me kind of never want to be a parent myself. But why I specifically point this out is because he's offended because he feels called out by it. And he feels like, oh my God, like I'm looking at myself in this video and this martyr complex from this woman. How dare she? How dare she complain about being a mother? And I've played this clip a couple times because I find it so pathetic. But here's the Daily Wire crew all bragging about how they don't do any chores at home. Like literally are incompetent. They can't do it. They can't do their own laundry or cook. Such alpha males. What would you do if you drop them in the middle of the jungle? They just die because they can't do anything. So let's have a look at this.
It's kind of a trick question because I hate them both equally. But I guess I would say I would rather do the dishes, but I'd prefer if she just did both of them.
Wrong answer.
Michael, to you.
Dishes, it's no question. I'm not sure in our entire marriage if I've ever done a full load of laundry, so I think I have that one.
I like it. All right, Drew.
Well, this is a trick question because I have not done anything around the house for 40 years. I've been a completely useless. But it's clear that if I had to choose, it would have to be dishes, because she was just out of town for a month, and I actually called her up and said, "How do you do laundry?" So I think dishes is the only thing I know how to do.
Can you imagine being married and bragging that you don't do any chores? Like, you don't help in this relationship just do the basic necessities you need to like live a pretty normal life, right? You don't cook and you don't clean. You've never done laundry. Like, can we just appreciate how insane that is? I'm just thinking about myself and all the chores I've done this week while living with my girlfriend and like working full time, like on my YouTube channel, like 35 hours this week, probably more. And I'm doing laundry all the time. I'm cleaning the dishes. I'm doing all this stuff. Like, if one of us has more work and a more busy schedule, we'll compensate for the other. But it's just insane to me thinking that I could be okay with her doing all that. Like, not even knowing how to do laundry. I'm just staggered. I'm staggered that they will want to admit that. But doesn't that speak so much about the conservative worldview of women in that there's no shame? I'm going to dump this all on my wife because she deserves it. And even if you have the relationship of all these men, which I don't think is the case, all these men are the sole breadwinners. Like, they all work and the wife looks after the home in like a very patriarchal, traditional way. Stay-at-home mums, they look after the kids. And as part of that, you know, maybe they do more of the chores because they're at home. But again, even in that situation, like that's the situation for my parents growing up and stuff, I know my dad would still help out with chores. Obviously, it wouldn't be even, but I've always remembered my dad doing chores around the house, right? And he comes from an older generation than most of those guys, apart from Andrew Clavin. So again, it's not just like, oh, these guys are old-fashioned or in their mid-40s or even 60s. It's literally like, conservative men hate women and view them a certain way, so they will openly brag that they're completely incompetent and don't help out with anything around the house because they feel like if they are the sole breadwinner or main breadwinner, that absolves them of responsibility. So when Matt Walsh sees a TikTok saying like, my husband literally does nothing to help my kids, and he has 4 kids himself, I'm pretty sure, he just sees himself and he's like, oh my God, so exhausting, this martyr complex, because I'm the man, I make the money, so you should be okay with the grueling labor that is looking after multiple children and tending to their every need and running a household. And I spoke about this before as well, but I made a video a couple months ago about the conservative war on no-fault divorce. And why I'm bringing that up again is just to tie this all back together is why conservative women hate conservative men so much is because they want a live-in maid and they want to trap them. Because like I said, I made that video, conservative women saying, why do you treat us so badly? Not noticing that the rights they enjoy as women today are because of the left and liberals. And then conservative men turn around and say, we never wanted that equality for you, so don't be surprised when we treat you badly. Don't be surprised we want a live-in maid. And don't be surprised when we're waging a war on no-fault divorce, so you will be trapped in this relationship for your entire life and you can never leave. And now let's listen to Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles actually talk about this to show you how like pretty scary this ideology is at the end of the day. Like, we can laugh about the chore stuff, but it does hide a more like sinister notion that these guys want a society where women are completely subservient and under their control.
I have never seen a family improved by divorce. Sometimes, in very rare cases, there is not only a right, but an obligation to have some kind of separation. Let's say that, I don't know, the husband is a knockdown, violent, abusive drunk, and he's thrown his wife against the walls. And sometimes, for just the protection of one's own life and the life of one's own kids, there is some separation that might be required. Say until the husband goes to rehab or something like that, figures out his life. I'm not denying that, but as a rule, I have never, ever seen a family improved by divorce. Figure it out. But it's not reparable at this point. It's absolutely, the marriage is just beyond repair. No, it isn't. How do you avoid divorce? How do you keep a marriage together? And the best advice I heard was very simple. They said, oh, well, the best way to keep your marriage together and have a long marriage is just don't get divorced. And I don't care if you don't feel happy at this particular moment. You're not going to feel happy at every single moment of your life.
Most divorces are initiated by women, and also most women have careers. There's no reason why a woman with a job who decides to leave her husband and break the marriage vows should then be rewarded with a monthly stipend from the man that she wants nothing to do with. But I think the reform to no-fault divorce is far simpler. It should be reformed by simply ceasing to exist. Marriage is much more than a contract. It's a covenant. But to the extent that it is also a contract, it's hard to think of any other situation in which a contract can be broken for no reason by either party without the consent of the other and entirely without cause. When you make divorce easy, and for at least one party concerned profitable, you get more of it. Now, no-fault divorce advocates will argue that the alternative, divorce without the no-fault option, can tend to be traumatic and it could get really ugly. But there's no way around that. And we shouldn't look for one. Like, divorce is an ugly thing no matter what. Besides, no-fault divorce doesn't mitigate the trauma or ugliness of divorce. Instead, too often, it simply shifts the trauma so that one party is made to carry most of its burden.
So yeah, that is really scary. Like, very mainstream conservative pundits basically saying, on one hand, with Michael Knowles, if you're in a terrible relationship, you're not going to be happy all your life. And even if your husband has hit you, once he goes to rehab and is sober, that means you must forgive him and welcome him back into the family. Where Matt Walsh was also saying something similar, like, just get rid of no-fault divorce because it's unfair. It's unfair on men that for any reason, a woman can just be like, I'm leaving this relationship. And thanks for all the comments in that video, because I posed a question in that video. If you grew up in a family with parents who clearly didn't like each other, but only stayed together because, you know, they wanted to have this family unit, how'd that go? And people also sharing experiences about how happy they were their parents divorced. And loads of people saying, yeah, it's a terrible environment to grow up in. Like, you shouldn't just stay together for the family, because your kids will always notice, even from a young age, they will notice that you guys do not like each other and you guys are not like this happy family, even if you try and pretend to be for the children's sake, and you're making each other miserable, and you'll be infinitely happier apart from each other, and therefore you're more likely to be a better parent when you don't have that stress of the relationship. But I think one thing to say about conservative men, I don't think they actually care about having a happy family. I don't think they care about the children's well-being as much as they say they want, you know, a marriage as a stable environment for raising kids. They don't care about this stuff. They hide behind this because they want it as a trap for women. These guys are lazy, they're entitled, they want in part a maid. And that's why they don't want the woman to leave. Like, if Michael Knowles' wife leaves him saying, you never do the chores, I'm sick of you, then incompetent Michael Knowles is going to have to do everything again like he maybe used to when he was younger. Matt Walsh is the same. If she goes, I'm sick of you not helping raise these kids, I'm leaving you, and then he has to fend for himself again, because these men are entitled, they are incompetent, they aren't alpha males, they couldn't survive any like hard scenario, they can't even do the dishes, do laundry, and cook their own food. These are the guys who are meant to look up to give me dating advice, relationship advice, even listen to on a basic fundamental level. There is nothing they can offer me. All they offer is a reinforcement of patriarchy and traditional right-wing values, which are increasingly in Western society not having much of a place. And if you are a guy, especially if you're a guy, you feel down your luck, you feel like, I can't get into a relationship, my main advice would be just stay clear of these guys, because they're not going to help you. Seriously, they're not. If you're about my age, 27 or younger, like, most Western women are not going to tolerate what these guys are talking about. They're not going to tolerate you viewing them as a baby machine and just a live-in maid. They're not going to tolerate you saying they shouldn't be able to divorce you if they're unhappy, and they're not going to tolerate you shaming them for sleeping with other people, while not holding yourself to a similar standard and acting like, well, it's okay if a man does it, but if a woman does it, she's a low-value woman. So probably a bit of a shorter one today. Just wanted to talk about this because I've been thinking about it a lot. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.